So why are you in LA right now?
I'm here to have bladder sling removal, complete removal, by Dr. Raz at UCLA.
And when was it put in?
On March the 9th, 2010. You never forget the date.
Lynn, can you try to put her question back into your answer? When she says, when was it put in, I don't want to hear the date. I want to hear you say, it was put in at such a, because we're not going to hear her voice if we can help.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
So you kind of throw her
yeah.
question back
Yeah,
into your answer,
okay.
and it'll really be perfect.
Okay.
We do this with everybody, so it's not
Okay.
like you're the first person to hear this lecture.
So when did you have the hysterectomy?
I've never had a hysterectomy.
What happened? What was your first
I went for a rectocele repair, and at that time I was questioned about when I coughed and sneezed, and I said, when I have a cold and I really sneeze a great deal, then yes, I do. I thought that was normal in women of my age. So then I was told that there are ways that you don't have to worry about any of that, and we can fix it. It's a simple surgery. We can do it at the same time as a rectocele. I did not understand what it was. I didn't understand that it was mesh. I never had a name of it. I never had a pamphlet. I did not see anything. So I went in there totally blind.
Then what happened? How long?
Immediately after surgery, I felt fine. I went home. I began to potter around the house doing few little bits and pieces. I'd planned a lot of things that I could do that would not take any strain because you can't do anything. But I am easily bored. So I thought, well, I'll just have some things I can make and do. And I felt fine. And then I was supposed to go back a week later and have the catheter removed if all was well. But she told me probably take a couple of weeks. So I went back. We drove 2 hours each way and went back there, and they removed the catheter. I couldn't go. She said, nothing to worry about. They put the catheter back in again. I came home again next week, one more time, went back. Couldn't do anything. And so she said, okay. I walked around the office every time, stared at the walls for about an hour to 2 hours every week, driving 2 hours each way. Still couldn't do anything. And this continued. And then I was reaching a point I was getting worried. I began reading up on it and everything. I thought, nobody seems to be any longer than 2 weeks, the outside 4 weeks. So I questioned her about that, and she said, oh, but I've had a couple of patients that are 6 weeks, but she said it's rare. You don't need to worry. No problems. And so I carried on going back there every week. By the 6th week, I couldn't go. I was getting very worried. Also, infections were becoming rampant because catheter shouldn't be in you that long. And I began to see blood in the catheter bag, and I got really worried about it. And I asked her about it, and she said, oh, well, we're going to give you antibiotics. Of course, I can't take some of them, and it never cleared any of the infections. So in the end, I said, what's going to happen? And she said, well, I don't think we're going to have to do anything. I think it's all going to work out. Don't worry about it. And on the 7th week, I said to her, I said, you told me nobody's ever gone past 6 weeks. Now here I am. And she said, yes, I know. And she said, well, we're going to have to look at it next week and decide what to do. So went in next week, 8 weeks, couldn't go. And then I was crying every week from about 6 weeks because I was so frustrated. I couldn't go, and I was scared to death my bladder would never work again. So then she told me, she said, well, we're going to have to go in there. And she gave a name for it, but I didn't really understand what she was going to do so that it would then release my bladder to be able to go. I thought she was going to totally remove it. That's how ignorant I was. I had no clue. It's a permanent implant that immediately it's going to start attaching itself to your organs and to your bladder. So I was really upset at that point, and she said, well, you know, you have any more? I paid cash. And she said, do you have any more? Can you come up with some more money and we can go in there and do this? And I said, I am out of money. I'm out of credit. I have nothing left. I keep going. All of the lab fees would go a couple hundred a week because of the type of infections I was getting. The drugs, normal drugs were not working. She found an old-fashioned drug, an antibiotic. It's an old-fashioned one, and that they used to use. And so she said, but it's going to be expensive. I said, how expensive? A week's pills was $100, one a day. At that point, I was desperate. I thought, if I can just get the infection under control, then I can go again. You know, this will all be solved. I didn't solve it. So I told her, I said, I'm out of money. I'm out of everything. I have no credit left. I've given everything to this. And it wasn't supposed to be like this. So finally, I said, I can't stay like this. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't live with a catheter in me. Look at the infections. So she said, I'm going to talk to the head of urology and see what we can do. And finally, they decided that they would pay for me to have this surgery. And then, even then, I didn't know what they were going to do. I thought they were going to remove it. And when I came to, it was day surgery. When I came to, I asked her, I said, oh, did you remove it? And she looked at me in horror. You can't remove it. And that was the first inkling that I found out. I never heard the word implant, never heard the word mesh. I didn't know what it was.
Wow. And so, how long did you live with that?
Well, at 9 weeks, she did this. And she told me, she said, because of the bad infections, she sent me home with a catheter. About 3 days later, she said, well, we can't leave the catheter in you. We've got to teach you how to self-cath. And I looked at her in horror and I thought, you know, because at my age, I'm thinking, how am I supposed to be, you know, in a positions to do this kind of thing? You know, the horror, I'm thinking, I'm not as agile as I was when I was young. What exactly does it entail? And so she came in there and she taught me what self-cath was. She sent me home with boxes of catheters and directions because of infection. I went home the first night and I never slept. I never slept for probably 2 days, but just short intervals of sleep. When I called her, I said, I got a problem. My bladder is spasming so bad, and I would get up, I don't even know how many times. I still do have all the records of how many times a night. I had a hat in the toilet, and I had to go there. Then I had to pour, and I had to record on paper with a lamp all throughout the night how many times I went. And then I had to email it to her. And she looked at it and she said, you went this many times? I said, my bladder won't stop doing this, but I can't do much when I go. So she said, well, we'll try Vesicare. She had samples in there. I took the samples home. I took it for the first day and I thought, I can't go at all now. Why? And I got reading, and if you've got any bladder problems whatsoever, it will dehydrate you. You cannot take those kind of products. So I called her and I thought to myself, I've just got to suffer through this. I've got to keep doing this until I can get this working. And I did that for about 4 weeks. I would email her everything every few days, the long list of how much and everything, times a day. I just did it all by hand. And I wanted to get well so much. I didn't care what I had to do because I did not want to lose my bladder. I couldn't imagine what that would be like. And finally, the numbers got better and better. And so I reached a point then, I did go back into Syria a couple of times, reached a point then when she said, well, you're going to be able to stop doing that now and you'll be okay. So the problem was I still got infections. So I asked my daughter, I said, well, I'm not going to take these antibiotics, they're doing nothing. And when I questioned my doctor about that, she said, well, you're probably going to have to take half a pill a day for months. And I said, an antibiotic? That is not good for you. I don't care what low dose, and it's not working. So I asked my daughter, I said, if you will do some research, see if there's something natural. And we bought all kinds of things. There was one called, of course, everybody does the cranberry pills and the cranberry juice. That didn't work. Then there was D-mannose. That didn't work. There was another one called Forcelin, I believe it is. I can't remember. That didn't work. And my daughter found marshmallow root. And at first, I was skeptical, just another one, but I did not want to remain on antibiotics that weren't working. And within a week, I thought, oh wow, I'm beginning to feel normal. And within 2 weeks, I thought, I'm not even getting any of the symptoms anymore. So I began doing that, and at first I thought I'd had pings in my groin area, but I had worn a catheter for so long, and I was so frustrated with that I thought it's just to do with wearing a catheter. So I didn't worry about it. And then I was on post-op for 4 months, and of course by that time she told me I couldn't remain on it without paying. I didn't have any money to pay. So I just said, you know what, I'd had enough anyway. But then this pinging began to be more pronounced. And it was slow, but by October it had got worse and worse, and to the point of when I would step, all of a sudden I get this sharp pain in my hip, my groin, down my leg. And my leg would just give out under me. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? And then I was getting up off a chair one day and went down and wound up cracking two bones in my wrist. And at that point, I thought, this is wrong. Had to go to the emergency room, had to go to get cast on and everything. I thought, this is wrong. And so I told her, I said, it's more. I was never like this. I climbed ladders. I can hardly raise my right foot now without extreme pain. There's more to this. It's got to be the sling. And I was researching with one hand all the time. What could it be? You know, why is this happening? And it was TVT. And when I would talk to her about it, she said it's impossible for that because only TVTO do they have these problems with the nerve, and I don't do those. I kept digging, and because my background is from the UK, even though I've been here all these years, I thought, if I put UK on the end, up come stuff from Europe about this. And I found these articles written by 2 doctors in Belgium. And it said that this was happening with TVT surgery. And that one woman had walked in, there was a case study on it. She was 70 years old. She had not been able to walk in 3 years. She walked with a cane. And that this was a TVT surgery.
What's
and
TVT?
It does. TVT is transvaginal, I'm not really sure, let me see. The TVTO stands for obturator. When they put it, all of this is blind, but when they go to put it in with the obturator, it actually goes around and kind of loops underneath the obturator nerve. That is why they have so many more problems. TVT, they don't do that. So it should not have anything to do with the nerve. But it does. Not for everybody, but it does. So after that time, I finally got by Christmas, I finally got the cast off, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I was sending her notes about this, and I said, it is true. I was not believed. So she offered for me to go and do, I said to her, it's nerve, and that was while I had the cast on. I said, it's nerve related. My leg is going out underneath me. I'm getting these shooting pains. I've never had anything that's like this before in my life. So she agreed that she would get a colleague who was that did the EMG, which is an electro, whatever. It's to do with the nerves. It's done by a neurologist, and she had a colleague in the building. So she set up an appointment with no cost to me. It was agonizing. I was still in a cast. And that kind of surgery, somebody pushing around in these areas when you have a nerve injury. I was put through everything under the sun, and the announcement was at the end of this, there was no nerve damage. I said, I know it is. I can't prove it is. I know it is. And I was very upset. And it was at that point I said, I have no more money, no more credit. I've ruined everything, and I am not going to do this anymore. Excuse me.
If you want a tissue.
Thanks.
Did you want a sip of water or something?
I've got tea there. Yeah.
Take a breath.
Okay. That this had happened, and I couldn't prove anything. So I finally decided I was going to write it all out. Anything bad in my life, I write. And I began putting what had happened to me, all the frustrations of dealing with it and not being able to prove anything. And I did it as a blog. I'd never written a blog in my life before. It was not something that I would ever thought I would do. And as it went out there, I thought it's just going out to thin air. And women began to contact me and said, your story's my story. I can't walk either. I'm bedridden. I'm in agony. I've lost my husband. My children don't believe me. Just so many horrible stories. And at first you're thinking, how can this happen and nobody does anything? Nobody says anything about this. Nobody's doing anything about it. But as I went along, I began to meet other women that had gone through this, and that they were telling each other in private, go out to UCLA, go to Dr. Raz, because nobody else can remove it all. And what I discovered was I began asking women questions, have you had any other surgery? And so many women had had partial removal surgeries. Some of them couldn't walk. They were so much worse off from nerve damage, or they were still struggling in agony on more painkillers than they'd ever been before, because partial removal, as I discovered, didn't work. And when I listened to all these women, I began thinking about it, and I thought, I've got 2 years to somehow make this through. I had the infections under control, and I stayed on marshmallow root for 2 years until I just stopped it for this surgery.
Why did you need to wait 2 years?
Because I had no insurance, no money, and I had to wait until Medicare kicked in. And it actually kicked in June the 1st of 2012. And before, with all of these women, and I talked on the phone non-stop to women, with all of these women telling me the good things about UCLA, the bad things about what had been happening to other women, and the terrible stories for some. And I thought, I'm going to go there. I don't have any money, but I got a car. I can't drive anymore because I'd had to stop driving. I couldn't get in behind the wheel because it was agonizing. I was afraid to go off because it was so much pain to be able to put my foot, because when it's in your right side, you've got to climb in the car and you've got to push your foot down on the gas pedal. First you've got to get under the steering wheel. So I thought, I can't drive anymore, because I thought, who's going to come and get me? If I get stuck somewhere, there's just my daughter and I, how's she going to come and get another vehicle, to come and pick me up wherever I've gone? And it was miserable. When I left the house, I wasn't sure I'd come back. So I just decided I'm not going to do that anymore. So my car sat, and it was getting older. It had been my first and only new car ever. I bought it in the year 2000, and I thought, I can sell it. I can get the money to go out to UCLA, and that's how I raised my expenses. And truthfully, it's the best thing I ever did. I think the saddest part for me is that women want a magical answer and I can't give it to them. They call me and they say, well, surely there's somebody else. I said, for 2 years I've listened to all these stories. I know what has happened to women. And if you want mesh removal one time, in the first time only, without having terrible damage, and that if you want to be able to resume some kind of life, we're never going to be 100% perfect again. But if you want to have some kind of life back, something, you're going to have to raise money some way. And women have listened. They have raised funds through the places that their husbands work for. Those who are lucky enough to kept a husband, many don't. Many of their husbands are awful and leave them or they make their lives miserable because there's no more sex. They think that the doctors continuously say, it's not the mesh, there's nothing wrong with you. Have a antidepressant. Here's a pain pill. Basically, go away. And then the women are left to fend for themselves, and everybody's looking at them. A lot of them, their children look at them. Grown children will say, but Mom, they said there's nothing wrong with you. So must not be anything wrong with you. And it's really sad, that whole families are done in with this, let alone the money. For me, the hardest part is young women. To give you an idea, Kim just downloaded emails on her computer today, and 22-year-old woman. How old's the child?
Yeah, 4.
4. Just had a 3rd surgery since this is in her, and she's not any better. And she said, if I'd have found this blog before, I would never have had this. And sometimes I wanted to pull it down. You take a lot of this in. It becomes internal when you read their awful stories. And you don't know what to do. You can't help them. They don't have any money. They can't travel. They're too sick. They've got young children. They don't know how they'll take care of them. And they don't know if there'll ever be an end to the agony. And what really tears you up is the ones that have told me on the phone, I want to kill myself. And there's been many. And one young woman, she told me, she said, I got 3 young children. And one night I left the house, I left my husband there with the children, and I drove over to an area that I thought that I would be found, but it would not be at the house where the children would know about it. And she said, I took every pill I could find with me, and I sat in the car, and I wanted to take them so bad, and she said, I kept thinking, seeing their faces, and I called the suicide hotline. And the woman, and she doesn't know to this day what woman this was, you need to go to UCLA to Dr. Rez. I said, oh my God, that is totally amazing. Obviously, somebody she knew this had happened to too. And the sad part about this is Dr. Rez did what he could. She'd already had an awful surgery. She's in such terrible shape that they've run out of money. Her and her husband totally run out of money. Got these young children to raise, and they don't know how half of the time because there's no money. She needs to go back to Dr. Rez. There's no money. She's got to travel from Houston, and she said, we just can't do it. We've got to wait. We just can't. She's got insurance. Insurance means nothing because women's insurance, it doesn't pay it all, let alone the expenses. There's a huge amount of out-of-pocket expense, and most don't have any money to spend. By the time they get to the stage that they realize that there's only one place to do it, problem with it is they've gone through tons and tons of tests that never show anything. All it did was give doctors the actual excuse to say, there's nothing wrong with you. So the money's gone.
What, so now you're here for your surgery.
Yeah.
And today was your pre-surgical day. What kind of tests and things do they do today?
Well, actually, it quite amazed me because I've been hearing from all the women. I know so much about this because listening for 2 years to women who've been through this. You learn the language. You learn medical language you never knew before, didn't want to know before. I talked to many RNs, many very intelligent women, and they've gone through this. And whenever I'm stuck and I don't understand something, I ask one of them, I get the replies come back, and then it's like, I'll research to figure it out. You know, what does that mean? I need to understand this. So I knew that the reason why he's more successful is because of the tests they perform. Now, some of them can be done elsewhere, you know, but the best chance of doing it is just before surgery to get the accurate results. But something nobody else does is a translabial ultrasound. And I didn't really know what it was. I didn't even have a name for it because I remember a woman who'd been to him and she said, there's this test they do, and that's how they see the mesh. I said, what's it called? She said, I don't know. And it was really strange because I was talking to another woman in another area on the phone altogether, and she told me what it was called, and I said, wait, I've got to write it down. I need to look it up. So I wrote down, I said, spell it for me. And I looked it up, and then up it came, and it was like, what the heck is this? if these women are going for all kinds of MRIs, and the list was going on of the types of tests they were having, how come this one? And how come everybody else don't have it?
Well, what is it? What happened?
It's called a translabial ultrasound. It barely goes up inside you. There are 2 different probes that they use. And what it does, it actually shows, it's an ultrasound, so it's not invasive, but it actually shows the mesh, where it is, what it stuck itself to, how it's moved, if it's folded itself, whatever the situation and the condition of it is in your body. And it shows, and actually you can get a picture. I would have had mine today, but he had a meeting, because I was really looking forward to seeing that picture, of mine. And I wanted to keep it because I want to scan it in and show women why this test works. You see white attached to the bladder or wherever else it goes. Yet none of these other tests can see a thing.
So you had that test today. What else?
Yeah. Had a cystoscopy, right? Cystoscopy, yeah, right. I had that one time before, and that is actually to see if there's any mesh erosion in your bladder. Mine's not. Mine has always been to do with this, but constant terrible infections. The other thing I had was urodynamics, and actually I was surprised because I had one of those one time before when I was having all these problems. But boy, UCLA's got the equipment, and it's a stand-up urodynamics. So I was actually quite fascinated, and I was kind of wishing I wasn't a participant in it so that I could actually watch it and take notes, because it fascinated me. Big machine come out to show, and you just had to turn, but you're actually standing on a machine, your feet are on these pedals, and you're actually standing there, and then she's telling you what to do. Really nice woman who knows her stuff, been doing, that's a good thing. UCLA trains people, and they do that one job all the time, and they get excellent with it. So, and I knew, as I was talking to her, I wanted to tell her, first of all, I said, my bladder's never worked. It's never worked the way it should since this has been put in me. I said, I used to be like normal people. When, I'm busting, I got to go to the bathroom, and then you think, Lord, will it ever quit? Now I say I'm busting, I got to go to the bathroom, and I don't do much. So I knew there was something wrong, and I said to this lady, as she was doing it, I said, I want to know something. I want to know how my bladder is filling, because I know there's a problem. So she said, I'll tell you when we get through this. So when we got through with it, and I had sat there trying to, finally, after all the testing was done, trying to get rid of what was left in me, and then got back up on the thing, and they put the machine right there. And she said, look over there at the screen. And up on the screen, there's my bladder shaped like a balloon, and half of it was still full. She said, that's why. So, and I really am so thankful for this stupid herb called marshmallow root, because if I hadn't have discovered that, I just had to stop taking it before the surgery, and I got this rampant infection. She had to give me a shot for it today, and I'm thinking I would have lived like this all of that time. In fact, when I was talking to the technician, a young man that he was getting me all set up and telling me where we were going to go, the different tests and everything, and then left me in the room. When he come back in, he said, what did you say that was called? I said, marshmallow root. He said, I've never heard of it. I said, yeah, me neither. And I said, it's like the miracle, because I said, how for 2 years have I not had an infection? It's amazing. And yet, none of the antibiotics could get rid of it. So he pulled out his cell phone. He said, spell it. Tell him, and he's putting it in there. He's not the first one. I have a neighbour that, she's a paediatrician, and she came over. She didn't even know I'd had all this problem. And she came over, and she was visiting us one day. They were trying to find out about, they would need to put a new water well in. They wanted to know what company we used and everything. And so I told her about what had happened to me. And so she said, I said, if it wasn't for marshmallow root, I don't know what I've done. She said, what is it? I said, I'll go get the bottle and I'll show you what it looks like on the outside. She pulled out paper and she's writing this down. She said, I'm a pediatrician. She said, do you know how many children none of the antibiotics will work on? And she wrote it down. She said, thank you, I'm going to look into it, because she said, we'll do anything for these kids. Amazing.
Where Phil's mother used to live in Pennsylvania, she had marshmallows growing in beside a stream.
I wonder if it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and little white flour.
Yes. When you see it on the internet, it's white flowers.
Mhm.
It's a process. In fact, the one I use is, I use capsules, and it's like powder. You can buy in tea form.
They dry it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very inexpensive.
So,
Amazing.
did you have
Good
an
to know.
MRI today?
No. Not necessary.
So they ordered one for me.
I think it depends on, like, I've got one sling. I don't have any other problems to do with, I don't have any other pieces anywhere. I've already had a rectocele, which is fine. And I think if it depends on how many mesh are in you, because some of the other women have
Two.
had more tests. Right. And I know they have. And some of them have had it done at home, and then the results come back to him to study. And so they do it in their own state.
Yeah, and I have to be on a clear fluid diet for 5 days.
Is that to do with the MRI?
That has to do with the rectocele.
Oh yeah,
They're gonna-
that's before surgery, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Because they're potentially, he wasn't even sure, 100% sure he was going to do a repair there.
Yeah.
He thinks he would have to
Yeah.
do some work.
You have to do quite a bit for a rectocele, because I had to do it too. There's a lot of pills you take. You're literally going to the bathroom. I don't know how many. You've got complete instructions about on this hour, and this hour, how many pills you have to take. And
Totally
then,
empty out your
yes,
mouth.
totally. It's miserable. You
Well-
can't go anywhere. You can't do anything.
Well, I get colonoscopies every 5 to 10 years.
Oh, so
I have
you
to
know.
go through that.
Yeah.
It's charming, believe me.
Yeah, wonderful. I never had it in my life, but it was because of a rectocele
I
repair.
love every hour.
So
So,
how are you feeling now about the surgery
Bring a
tomorrow?
lot of news.
I'll
news to
tell you the
read to
truth.
bathroom.
I laid in bed.
So,
You're gonna be
wait.
there all day.
Phil, give Linda a chance to talk.
I'm sorry.
She has,
Let me give some tea first. Yeah.
this is Linda's show.
I'm sorry. we just chatting.
I'm teasing you.
That's all right. You can bullshit real well in a while. Yeah, yeah. I thought I just spilled some on me. That's those. I hate those
Let's see if
stupid.
I
Take
see
you
it. I don't think
anywhere,
I see it.
Linda.
No, I know. That's those stupid cups.
Let me.
The last month have been crazy. I can't concentrate. Normally I'm designing things. Can't think straight. Can't. I get started. I think, oh, I'm going to design something today, and it just takes over. Fear, you know. But also, am I doing the right thing? You know, you get used to pain. You get used to living the way you are. It's not a good use to get used to it, but you do. Everything happens slowly. And so this is the life you've got now. So to do surgery, you're thinking, please don't screw it up, you know, because then you're thinking, okay, I'm used to this life, but am I going to have a worse one? So you have to constantly talk to yourself, I'm going to in the best hands possible. He knows what he's doing. I've talked to all these other women, and I know how they're fared if they go for first time removal here. So I have to keep constantly talking to myself. And you get out of bed in the morning, and the first thing you got to do is steady yourself, and you're going to feel that pain, you know, as you step on the floor, and you get mad, you know, that you have to do surgery again. That this is ridiculous. Why? So your anger rises. So then you have to say, change the subject. You get something else going in your mind. I go through and then play with my little dog, and you know, and sit down and watch morning news and everything. And I think, okay, I've got rid of those thoughts, you know. But they come back because the anger, and that's why when I've written, I tell the women, the anger is constant. I said it fluctuates. You know, you think, I shouldn't be doing this. I should not. And for some of these women, I don't even know how they have the courage to have surgery because it's been in them so long. But they say they've got nothing else. And the only thing that stops women killing themselves is their children, their religion. That's the only thing they keep telling themselves, I can't do this, you know, I can't.
What about tomorrow? Are you afraid of the surgery? Or?
No, not now. I know it sounds crazy. Maybe coming back here, it's been 4 months while I waited. maybe it's coming back here and go through all the tests and seeing everybody's capable, keeping their calm. And so, also, I had a really bad night last night. The infection kicked in. I got very little sleep. And by 5 o'clock, I thought, I can't do this more. I got to get a drink. I was drinking lukewarm tap water, you know, trying to stop the infection from taking over, because I knew you've got to keep drinking fluids, And I thought, I wish I could take the marshmallow root. I have it with me. Can't take it, you know. And I don't want to screw up getting this out of me because I waited too long. At the same time, you know, you're thinking, oh, I just want it out. I don't care anymore. I laid in bed this morning at 5 o'clock. Kim was sound asleep. And I thought, I don't care anymore. It's just got to come out. So I'm not worried about it anymore. I've just reached a point where it's acceptance. It's also, I'm calmer. You know, I'm not going to get any better. I'm only going to get worse. So I'm finally at peace with it, that I'm doing the right thing. And I think...
Come with you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Postpone our flight a day. I would mind.
Of course, we're going to be up, you know, I got to be there at 6:30.
Well, we can't film in the hospital.
Yeah, no.
We could be here when you come home. Or you're going to look like hell.
Oh, yeah.
No, we're not going to do
We're
that.
not going to do that together. We'll just come visit you in Texas.
Yeah, good one. Yeah. Yeah.
On Skype. Do you have Skype?
Yes, we do.
Yes. I've only used it with her when I was in England seeing my sister. And I used it, but at first she'd say, "You've got no sound, turn on the sound." I'm thinking, I don't know
My
what the
sound's
sound is.
broken on my Skype right now. I can't figure it out.
If he's already scheduled somebody else for 9 a.m., I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he's not going to take that long with me. That's such a good thing. It's amazing, you know. Just, I've talked to women 12 hours of surgery and they still haven't got it out.
No, it's all vaginal, right? Or does
Yes.
he put a
Oh,
scope into?
no, it's going to be almost all vaginal, and because the arms, the anchors are right here.
Uh-huh.
And so he said we'll be making incisions there, but he said it won't be anything. It'll be mostly all vaginal.
Oh, so little scopes.
Yeah,
to get those out.
Yeah, because he could see them. He was looking at them today, and he said, "Yeah, they're clearly marked." I didn't even know. That was something that was really funny to me, because when I come to from surgery, in a couple of days, you know how you're in the shower and all of this, and I thought, I got this strange feeling here, like a crossing. I didn't have any pain with them, but I didn't realise that they'd actually been anchored into your pelvic area. I had no clue. Yeah. Do you have anchors?
I think I do.
Yeah.
But I don't know where they are.
Well, mine, you can actually see the little places where they are.
No, I definitely have anchors. And where I push there, it's a little sore.
Yeah, I know. I'm afraid if you go...
Tell Gabe about that.
Yeah. Whenever women have contacted me and they've said to me, they've given me a name, because I always ask them, you know, do you know what type? But the worst part I find is the fact that there's no registry for this. If there's a drug you're given, it's put into the computer. There's none for this. What happens is there's a tag when they remove it from the packet. There's, on my case, some of them have told me they've been handwritten in. My case, there's a tag, and it's put into the operative nursing notes, and that's where it is. And it's really small tag, and that's the information. In fact, I couldn't even find it. I got my records. I had to spend $80 to get them, because I told them, keep all the other stuff. I just need these operating notes. Unfortunately, I got the nursing notes too, and that's where mine was. So I began looking through them. I thought, I can't find it. What is it? What is it? And I called an RN friend of mine who also has mesh erosion, and I said, I'm stuck. I can't find it anywhere, and I need to know this. I need to know what it is. And she told me where to look, and I said, oh my goodness, is that it? Just this little strip of paper with its typed information. It said the name of it and the implant number. I never had a clue it was an implant until that time. You don't think about something like that. You think of implants as being saying, okay, you got a knee surgery, so you got this knee joint. You think about that as being implants. You do not think about a strip of something being implant until you really think about it, and then it makes sense. It's not part of your original body. It is an implant. And all of a sudden, then it dawns on you, why did somebody put an implant in me? You know, I never understood it was an implant. Why wasn't I told? And then you've got more words, and that's the hardest part. When you don't have information, you pick up a key word here and there, and then you begin to look. You keep typing, and you type obsessively sometimes when you can't sleep at night and you're in so much pain anyway. You'll get up on and off of the couch, and you say, okay, another idea will come in your head, and I'll go look at that. And it might be 3 o'clock in the morning. You can't sleep, so you may as well try to figure it out. But what really upset me is the fact that there is no registry. The one thing, all they would have to do is key in to some kind of database, every kind of implant. I don't care how big, how small. They could key in. They could put our social security number beside it and our name. It wouldn't take that much information. Then, if we have a problem, we should be able to give a social security number and get that information for free. Why is it made so hard? That makes me angry. It's wrong. You have to go to that hospital. The doctor who does this doesn't keep that information, which is quite shocking, because you think, surely they would. No, they don't. It's not in your files. You have to go back to the hospital where it was done, and you have to get those records from there. The problem with it is many of these women are long-term mesh. So therefore, one woman just contacted me, 15 years plus. She said, I've got to go back. How many people stay in the same place for 15 years? So often you're miles across the country. You should be able to order them. Easy, right? Not that simple, because you've got to go through many different people to go to a records department to start with. And hopefully you're going to find the person on the other end in a good mood when you give them this information, because most of them really don't want to give you that information. They're not pleasant about it. You've got to pay with a credit card, and then you've got to wait weeks and weeks and weeks if you can do it that way. Sometimes they can't find their records. One woman told me, she said, I've been trying to get my record a long time, but the place is gone that put it in. I said, it's got to be in storage somewhere. She said, no, he'll tell me where. So she still doesn't know what's in there. A database. Simple information would solve it. One national database.
It would also be good if people could key in, like Dr. Roz, that he took this one out. And
Exactly.
what he found, and then you'd have the data.
Well, that's the part, I don't really know, and I'm sure he's not going to share lots of information because it's patient confidentiality. I do wonder what on earth he must think about all this, what he's writing down in his own, about all of these things he sees. He's seeing from the not so bad to the terrible cases of women that have had it in their bodies for so many years. One of them, she's going to have it out next week, 12 years. Next Thursday, it will be out of her.
Well, I just called a friend that's out here I'd hoped to see, but there's not enough time, and she said, well, I had a hysterectomy in 2000, so I couldn't possibly have mesh in me.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And I
a
said,
lot of women thought that.
I said, well, I don't know. I wasn't going to give her something to worry about.
Well, the other problem is long-term mesh like that. That mesh has literally grown into everything inside your body. So seeing it, I don't know how he's that clever, and of course this translabial ultrasound is his guide. But it's amazing to me, like when this lady, when she contacted me just a few months ago, and she said she was laying in her bed because she cannot sit, and laying in on more and more painkillers. She said over the years, she's been told it was this, this and this. She's had surgery after surgery for everything, and it never was. It was this all the time, mesh in her body, long-term mesh. And so she found my blog, and she was on her phone just typing to me and wrote the longest story. She just hadn't had anybody to let it out to. And that happens with quite a few of the women. They just want somebody to listen, to acknowledge that this has happened, because nobody else understands it. And he's going to do this. And I said to her, I said, well, Robin, I don't know how this is going to be for you. You know, I'm sure you must worry about it. It's been in your body so long. She said, I don't care. I'm at the end of my line. And I told him that, Dr. Baz, if I'm lucky to have 50% better, that would be good. I'll take 25% at this point. She's on non-stop painkillers. She can't live a life anymore. And she's a really pretty woman, just in her very early 50s. She should be living. She can't live. And for her to come out here, she's going to be driven 3 days from Oklahoma across the country by a husband who has many physical ailments, back problems and everything else, stopping and starting all the way in a used motorhome. They sold a small rent house to be able to buy it to transport her, because he wanted to give her the best chance of survival and of some kind of a life, because she doesn't have any. And also coming the same direction is a woman from Canada. They've got the same problem up there. Nobody can remove it. These women are mortgaging their houses. She's going to be driving in. She can't sit. These people like that can't fly. Her husband's going to drive her in 3 days from the other direction. They will have surgery the same day, next Thursday. And all I can do is hope that they're going to get, you know, it must be awful for them. At least I know I've got a good shot, you know, at this. But to know that that mesh has been in you for so long, I just can't imagine the horror of thinking how they're going to find it, how they're going to get it out of me, what damage will it do. But he's a master. He is absolutely amazing at what he does. Been doing it a long time. He obviously knows his stuff. And the other thing, like every woman that goes to a doctor, a local doctor after this is in her, they offer to do removal. Well, most women don't know. They think, oh, going to get it out, just like I thought that it was going to be out of me. That's how ignorant we all are, because nobody tells us anything. And so they then, when they come to the blog, they have, we put together a list of questions by women who have had it completely removed. And they did all the questions. And all I do is type it in and put it up there and say, this is what you need to ask any doctor before you have mesh removal. And they will nail these doctors down, the strong women. Not everybody's strong. They're in so much pain. A lot of women they can't cope. But the strong ones will go in with these printed out pages and they begin to ask the questions, one after the other. Okay, and the questions are very clear, but the doctors will go, oh yeah, I can do that. And then the questions keep coming. And before long, it's like, okay, I'm asking you, can you completely remove it? The arms or the anchors, whatever you like to call it, can you completely remove the mesh? And all of a sudden he'll realize this woman has got a bit more information. And then they'll admit, no, they can't. And what they say is, they can't remove those anchors. It's impossible. And that's when the women will say to me, well, what do you think? I said, go to UCLA. There's no other choice. You know, I don't want women to spend every dime. But
Dr.
what
Ross
is it?
didn't seem to be too worried about my anchors.
No. You know for sure yours has got anchors.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
he drew them on a little piece of paper
Okay.
when we were talking,
Yeah.
and I said, those are the anchors. And he said, yeah. I didn't say anything. I said, that comes out, you know.
Yeah.
They're hooked to these tendons.
Yeah. Well, that goes into your pelvic bone, you know. That's how the anchor's in. That's what's holding it there.
Yeah.
Some of the meshes have screws and bolts. He has removed mesh along with all kinds of things from some of these women. And it's like, how did all that get in them? The other thing is, some of these women have got 3 slings in them because they begin to complain, I've got this problem, this is not and everything. They'll put another mesh in over the top, another sling. Then they'll put another one in. And these women are then just like, they've got 3 layers to remove. I can't imagine what that must be like to have that removed. Horror.